collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at two of the 4-inch Pacific Rim figures from McFarlane Toys. These are fairly new. We have Raiju and Gipsy Danger. So Gipsy Danger is one of our Jaeger robots, and Raiju is a kaiju. That's right, Raiju the kaiju. Now, I believe these are still under the Page Punchers line, but they don't actually say Page Punchers anywhere on it. And they're 4 inches as opposed to the usual 3 inches. Although I guess there are also 7-inch Page Punchers, so I'm not sure. But as you can see, they do both come with a comic book. So there is that kind of connection to the Page Punchers. The packaging is quite more substantial than the usual Page Punchers. And it's actually kind of cool. You get a 4-inch figure, and then you get like a small city scene. You get this little corner block, and then you have a building here that can be destroyed with a tank and some other military vehicles. So it kind of gives you almost like a little diorama too, which I think is kind of neat. So I got a couple of these. They popped in stock on Entertainment Earth, and it was part of their buy one get one off, or it was buy one get one 50% off sale. So I decided to grab a couple of these because I thought they looked kind of cool. And you know me, I love 4-inch figures. So yeah, but I was not expecting it to be kind of this massive in terms of packaging. But I guess there is a lot that they're giving you here with the little city diorama and the comic book and the figure itself. So yeah, I decided to do one Jaeger and one kaiju, and then I have a couple others that I can take a look at. But yeah, I just thought these were cool. So like I said, we have Gipsy Danger here. Some nice artwork here on the front. Over here on the side, it says Jaeger Gipsy Danger. It is a Mark III, which I don't remember what that means. I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've seen the movie. You have a little bit of artwork down there. It's kind of hard to see it. And then over here on the back, you have like a schematic of the Jaeger, which is kind of cool, and it gives you some of its stats, which is kind of neat. And then over here for Raiju the Kaiju, which I still think is hilarious. Again, some nice artwork. Spinning it around to the back, you have kind of like a bio scan of the kaiju, and then again it gives its stats down here. Apparently it's very toxic, so watch out. But it is a category 4 kaiju. And then there is some artwork in there, but it's again really hard to see. But yeah, pretty neat packaging. Definitely larger than I expected, but very cool. So I'm going to go ahead, get these guys out of the packaging, and we'll take a closer look. So I'm not going to spend too much time on them, but I wanted to just kind of address them quickly. Here are the 2 comics that I got in these packs. Now, they appear to be 2 different series. This is Pacific Rim Aftermath, and this is Pacific Rim Tales from the Drift. This is number 3, and this appears to be number 4. Now, the packaging says they are exclusive comic books, so I don't know if these weren't sold in stores. I don't know why they're randomly in the middle of the series then. You would think they'd want to start with number 1, but maybe if you buy all of the figures, you'll get the full series. I don't know. So maybe number 1 is packed in with another figure. We'll have to wait and see. But they're okay. I mean, I didn't really read through them. I just kind of paged through them, but there's some nice art. Just kind of wanted to go through pretty quick. They look kind of cool, you know, monster battles with giant robots and whatnot. So, but yeah, it is 2 different series. So like I said, I don't know if... It doesn't really say 3 of 5 or 4 of 5 or anything like that. So I don't know. Maybe there's going to be 10 different figures altogether. But I just wanted to touch on this real quick. You do get a full comic book with each figure, which is pretty cool. So here are the 2 sets out of the packaging. Now I will say that the little building scene and the 2 military vehicles are exactly the same for both sets. I don't know if that's going to be true for all of the sets or not, but it is true for these 2. So you get these 2 little military vehicles. This is kind of I'm assuming like a troop transport, little covered truck. And I don't think this one has any articulation whatsoever. But the little tank, you can actually move the turret side to side, which I thought was a nice little touch. I was not expecting that. I fully expected both of them to just be little solid pieces. You know, they almost kind of look like Monopoly tokens or something like that. But yeah, I was pretty impressed. I was pretty impressed that the little turret could move side to side. I think that's kind of cool. So they're the exact same thing, just to show you off. This one can move as well. But so the vehicles are exactly the same. This one's almost like a different shade, but I think that's just, you know, they're pumping the plastic into the mold. So this one has a little bit more. I don't know if I don't think they're painted. I think they probably just have a little bit of a swirl of black plastic in there, and then they're just injecting them into the mold. And so the swirl effect just comes out differently each time. But either way, cool little vehicles. You can have the monsters crush them if you like. Now, going on to the buildings, it comes in 5 pieces. The building is in 4 pieces, and then you get this little like street scene. So here's obviously the corner where you're going to put the building, and then you have the intersection of 2 roads here. And so you just sit this in here, but it comes across in, or I should say, it comes apart in 4 pieces. So here's the base, and it's kind of cool. They have like concrete and struts and things like that. You know, things that would be when if you would break through a concrete building, pieces that would be showing. I think that's kind of neat. And then you just line these up. Now, it really doesn't matter which way you put this in. You can see how there's like, it's obvious how it fits together. But if you rotate it around, it fits the same every single way. So you can't put these together incorrectly. There's no incorrect way to do it. It's the same on every single one. And also, technically, you could switch these around, and it would make no difference because they're the same. So that's kind of cool. And then you have the top piece, and that just sits on top. So there's your building, and then you can just knock it down, which I think is fun. I mean, I think that works. I think that's totally cool. And then if you want, you can position your little army vehicles, and then you can take these, and they don't officially connect together or anything like that. But if you had enough of them, you know, you could line them up all next to each other and make yourself a little city for them to kind of smash and destroy, which I think is kind of cool. Now, if you want, you know, you can do these any way you want, but I kind of thought it would make more sense to do something like this. That way you could kind of fit a character in between. But yeah, either way, I think that's kind of cool. I think they're neat little accessory pieces. I think it makes total sense to include something like this, and it just kind of adds value to the figure. So, speaking of the figures, let's go ahead and jump into them right now. So we have Raiju, which I still can't get over, Raiju the Kaiju, and Gypsy Danger. So, Raiju is a basic, like, 5 POA figure, but then he also has this tail, and the tail does have a bend in it. I don't think it has multiple bends. I think the bend is kind of here at the middle of the tail. I don't know if it's like a piece of metal or a wire. I'm assuming a wire, but it kind of comes in the packaging up like this, but you can bend it down. And it's really nicely painted. I mean, all of this down here, you know, his belly. I think the head sculpt looks great. Kind of like a large alligator type monster. You have all this kind of scaly, like almost feathery type area here on the back, which looks great. It's a cool little figure. So the head can spin side to side. The arms can move. Nothing in the wrist or elbow or anything like that. And then the legs can kick. So I would say 6 points of articulation if you count the bendable wire in the tail as a point of articulation. But it's a really cool looking figure. I like it a lot. It's simplistic, but I don't really need it to have super articulated elbows or knees. I mean, honestly, it looks great. Nice detailing, nice paint. And it's just a great monster design, and I like it a lot. I mean, the tail is huge, a really huge tail. Now, the Gypsy Danger does have a little bit more articulation. So, and I have really a lot of paint applications as well. So you can see the helmet there, which I think looks great. It's got kind of a dirty, weathered effect here on the chest. You have these numbers painted on the shoulders. You have some more kind of detailing around here for the joints and things like that. Articulation-wise, the head can spin from side to side. It's a little difficult to get in there because of the high collar. I don't think it has anything up and down. I think it's just a side-to-side swivel. The shoulders are a little weird. So they do have like a butterfly joint. So you can move them front to back, as you can see. And I think it's kind of just like a ball joint in a socket. You can kind of go up and down as well. But it's, and then you have the swivel, but you're kind of hitting into this, so you can't really go up all that much. But you can kind of go forward to back, you can kind of go up and down like this. So I think it's just a ball joint and socket situation for the shoulder. But you just kind of have to, with the large shoulder pads and this piece here, you know, you're going to hit into things. So you kind of just have to, and when you put the arm like that, then it's just completely hitting into this piece on the back. So you're not going to get a ton, but you certainly could come forward a little bit. And then he does have an elbow as well. And it's kind of a nice ratchet. I don't know if you can hear that. But it's a pretty solid elbow joint there. And then for the hip, I think it's similar because you can kind of go out to the side and you can come up. So I think it's a ball joint as well. And then you have a really nice knee joint You can really hear that ratchet. And they kept a piece of plastic in here so that it doesn't look broken up at all. Like, when you expose that piece, it looks like it's all still connected, which I think is really nice. I really appreciate that. So you have really nice ratchets in the elbows and knees, and then you have these ball joints for the hips and shoulders, and then I think it's just a swivel for the head and nothing in the ankle. So it can be a little difficult to get him to stand upright. Not too terribly difficult, but sometimes you just have to make sure, like sometimes he kind of hunches over, or you have to kind of put the arms forward to find the balance. But honestly, I mean, for a little 4-inch figure, I think it's pretty cool. I really like both of these. I think they did a nice job. I like the city accessories, so we can have the army here. You know, we have our kaiju coming through, stepping on tanks, flattening these things, whipping buildings with his tail. Works really well. And then you can have the Gypsy Danger come in, fighting him. You know, maybe he knocks him into a building, so you can something like that. I mean, that's great. I mean, that's really cool. I think the little cityscape pieces really add to the play value. I think that's really cool. And plus, it's just really neat for a display purpose. I mean, if you wanted to get a bunch of these and make yourself a little city, you definitely could. And when I open the other ones, I'll have to see, you know, how much of a fledgling or a full-fledged city I can build. So apparently you can't put them wrong this way, but you can put them upside down, and that will make it not work. So be a little wary of that. But otherwise, very cool. I think it's kind of neat. I like that quite a bit. You can kind of pose the monster like he's coming down the street, something like that. Even that would be kind of a cool display thing. So I think it's pretty cool. Now, the one thing is these are $20 a piece. So for $20, you get the figure, you get the little city area and the 2 vehicles and the comic book. So it is kind of a decent value. Now, if you don't really care about the comic books, like I personally didn't care that much about the comic books, I'll probably look through them and they're kind of neat. But I mean, if you think about the fact that a comic book nowadays is probably around $5, then it's kind of like $15 for the figure, the little cityscape, and the army vehicles. And I don't think that's that bad. I mean, they have a decent amount of articulation. They have nice paint applications, nice detailing. I've seen similar things like with Hasbro's doing with the Epic Hero series, you know, about the same level of articulation, and they're usually $10, $11, $12. So if you kind of think of the fact that, if you, again, take out the value of the comic book, you're getting the cityscape, the 2 vehicles, and the figure for $15, I don't think that's that bad. Now, again, you do have to buy the comic book, so that does add the $5 back in for $20 for the full set. But hey, if you love the comic book, then the value's there. So it's just kind of your mileage will vary kind of a thing. But I think for what you get, it's a decent price. And I got them on sale, so they all ended up being like $15 a piece. So for me, I thought that was totally worth it. But yeah, very, very cool. I want to do some comparisons and things because I know people have been asking some questions about how the buildings scale with like Super Mini Pla and things like that. So I want to do a couple comparisons and also do some size comparisons with the figures themselves. So let's check that out. So first up for the buildings. Now I don't have a Super Mini Pla with me right now, but I do have something that I feel like is about the same size. So I have this Core Class Dinobot Combiner, which I feel like most Super Mini Pla are around this size. And they're not bad, honestly. Like, if you think about, they would definitely be taller than the buildings. I think this could work. I think you could definitely have, like, a Mini Pla, you know, knock this stuff over. At least I think this guy scales pretty well. Now, there are going to be some Super Mini Pla that are much larger, obviously. I would say, I mean, like, Super Train is huge. I would say most normal, like, you know, the Dino Megazord or like the Gal Ranger Megazord are probably about this tall, maybe slightly, maybe about this much taller. I think it would be decent because usually when we see the show, they're taller than all the buildings. Like they don't really. Well, I guess it depends. Different shows are different, but when I think back to like the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the Dino Megazord was usually like falling into buildings that were about the same size as it, or maybe a little bit shorter. So I would say it's probably not perfect, but it's probably decent enough that if you wanted to do a display, it could work. I think it's close enough. It's probably not like 1-to-1, obviously, but I think it's a decent size comparison for like Super Mini Pla and things like that. Another thing I think this works really well for is Ultraman Chodo figures. So I know before when I was collecting the Chodo figures, I said it doesn't really make sense because they don't really scale with, like, Rider and Sentai and other things done in this scale. When you think about the world, obviously Ultraman is a much larger hero. I think this works pretty well. Sometimes I would say Ultraman would be a little taller, but if I really wanted, I could just take these out. I could take out a section, and then I think it would scale really well. I feel like that's about how big he would be in a city. I think that could work, even if you want the full size, or maybe you do one building's a little bit taller than the other, or something like that for variety. But I think that could work. I really think Ultraman could work really well with this setup, and even have him fighting these monsters, because I feel like they scale really well. I mean, they're all that kind of 3 3/4, 4-inch scale. And so I think that could really work, and I think these are going to look fantastic with these Ultraman Chodo figures. Doing some size comparisons with some other random, like, 4-inch figures and things like that. Here is a 4-inch Epic Hero Series Storm. Here is a Super 7 Reaction Putty. Here is a Spin Master 4-inch Aquaman. Once again, here is Chodo Alpha Ultraman Zet. Then we have Magic Square Swindle. And what else? Here's a 5-inch Ninja Turtle figure. I feel like that's pretty good. I think it scales really well with most 1/18 scale figures. I mean, they are 4 inches. They work well. Now, obviously, Aquaman and a Jaeger are not the same size in universe, but if you just want to play with a bunch of 4-inch figures together, they will all be about the same size. Honestly, I think these are a ton of fun, and I like them quite a bit. I think the value is definitely there. $20 might seem like a lot when you first see the sticker price, but when you think about the fact that you're getting a figure, a little city diorama, 2 little vehicles, and a comic book, I definitely think the value's there. They're good-looking figures, decent articulation. Now, the Jaegers are probably going to have more articulation than the Kaiju are, but the Kaiju don't really need that much articulation. I think they're perfectly fine with the 5, technically 6 POA that we have. They look great, really nice detailing and paint application. Just the overall Kaiju designs, I think, are really cool. The Jaeger figures, they have a little bit more articulation. The paint applications are still there. He looks great. I love having him, like, whip his tail to knock over buildings or knock the Jaeger into the buildings. You have the little military vehicles for kind of cannon fodder for, the monster to terrorize the city. And also, I think it's kind of cool that the more of the figures you buy, the kind of larger cityscape you can put together. Now, again, they don't officially connect together in any way, but you can just kind of sit them next to each other and build out a city, and I think that could work really well. I kind of wish the buildings were a little bit different. Now, again, I don't know if every single pack is going to have the exact same building and military vehicle parts. It might not. It's very possible that these two just happen to have the same one, so I'll have to get back to you when I do my video for the next couple. But if they do end up all being exactly the same, it's not a huge problem, because, like I said, you could kind of do a little bit of variety by just kind of taking a piece out of the middle, and at least then you'd have some different sizes. Since they're all the same connection, you could definitely do that. Now, I think, doing something this small probably looks a little goofy, but you certainly could do it if you just wanted a little bit of variety. And I like how they have this molded in there, because they could have just done these completely hollow, and they are hollow for the most part, but by putting that little bit of detail in there, one, it makes the piece more structurally sound, which I really appreciate, and it's cool to just see that concrete and the metal girders and things sticking out, because, whenever you see these movies or something, breaks up, like, it's not just a completely, how am I trying to say this? It's not a completely hollow piece, so it gives a little bit more realism to it, which I know kind of sounds dumb, but it's cool. It's added detail, and I'm all for added detail. So at the end of the day, I think these are a ton of fun. I definitely recommend checking them out. I got them on Entertainment Earth. I don't know if they're still in stock there. I have not seen them in stores yet. I think they're relatively new, so they should be showing up in stores pretty soon, I would imagine. But yeah, they're fun. I mean, if you're a Pacific Rim fan, I think it's definitely worth checking out. even if you're not, I think they're still kind of cool because you can use these pieces with other lines like I showed. The kaiju figures are awesome, and you could really use them for any other figures that you have to fight. And I mean, who doesn't love a cool robot action figure? I mean, you could repurpose this as literally anything else if you don't care that much about Pacific Rim. It's still a cool robot figure, and it's nicely detailed, great paint. I just think they're fun. Because I have to be honest, I'm not a huge Pacific Rim fan. I saw the movie one time a while ago, and I don't remember all that much about it. But again, it's giant robots fighting giant monsters. That's kind of a universal theme. So even if you're not that big of a fan of the movie, there's still a lot of fun to be had here. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.